An apple tree grew in an orchard. The apples on the tree were small, but they dreamed of the day when they would grow into maturity and become tasty. Then they would be pleasing to children, help them to grow healthy. One day, some worms appeared on the tree and began to speak to the apples about how boring it was to hang on the tree all day with nothing to do. "Look at the birds," said the worms. "They can fly everywhere. There's so much to see and experience." Now some of the apples became interested in what the worms had to say. "I wish I could learn to fly," the apple said. "What is necessary for us to learn to fly?" "It's very simple," said the worms. "We will teach you. But I'm afraid the birds in the air might eat us. So can we be friends? And if we live inside of you, we would teach you how to fly." The apples agreed, and the worms began to live inside of the apples. Every day they talked about learning to fly. The worms asked the apples, "Who had told you that you could not fly? And who told you that you should give the vitamins that you produce to help others?" "God told us. That is why he created us," said the worms. "That's very unfair, replied the worms. "Well then, when will we fly?" asked the apples. "Well, it's not time yet," answered the worms, while continuing to eat away inside of the apples. Finally, the day came and the worms said, "It's time now. You're fully grown and there's no reason why you should not fly. The only thing that prevents you from flying is this tree, because it is jealous of you. Jealous because it cannot fly, because its roots are so deep in the ground. It cannot fly, and it doesn't want you to be able to fly either." The other apples heard what the worms said and began to try to persuade the apples to stay on the tree. "We were created for others. We must help them to try by giving them vitamins to help them become strong and healthy." Now, before I continue with the story, I want you to imagine that this rope is the apple tree and the clips are the branches. And I've got some pictures here of apples. I'll show you the first two apples there, and we'll put those there. Pick up the next pair, and we've got one good apple and one apple with a worm in it. So we put the apple there and the one with the worm over there. We pick up the next two, which two wiggly worms, two apples, and we put them on top. Back to our apples that are going on the tree. And the last one. And remember, we got one worm, two worms, three. So let's put the one with the worm there. Followed by another, and last one there. Stay here with us. Do not trust the worms. But the apples would not listen. A gust of wind came and the tree shook. And the apples shook loose from the tree. I'm flying, I'm flying, the apples happily cried. But the apples would not listen. And as you see, they cried with joy, which was soon outlasted because they came crashing to the ground. After a short time, the apples began to spoil. The next day, some children came to the orchard and began to collect apples. But the apples that wanted to fly were thrown into the trash. Who would want to buy or pick apples that got worms and spoiled? The children asked. All the other apples were collected into baskets and went on to provide vitamins to help others to grow, just as God had intended them to do. Now, did you realise in this story, you are the apple and Satan, or the devil, is the worms? Now, who would you like to live in your life? The nasty, wiggly worms? Or Jesus, who only wants the very best in life for you? Would you want a worm wiggling inside of you, who would let you know what you want to hear, which isn't always the right thing? Or Jesus, who is the way, the truth, and the life? Well, I'm going to go and pick some apples, and we'll meet another day.